It's leadership. It's not behind ship. It's not hide ship. It's not run backward ship. It's called leadership. I've gotten promoted because I spoke truth to power. I've gotten accolades because I've spoken truth to power. Right? They looked at me like, no one's ever said that. Right? Well, it's about time someone did.
Bear with me, Robert.
Rah!
Was that your? That was your bear.
That was my bear. I know. That didn't. That's if there's a stupid thing to be done, I do not mind stepping in and doing it. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh show.
Our previous episodes have been on some difficult conversations that you may need to have as a leader, being speaking truth to power, or we talked about 18 truths from Colin Powell about being a leader. And what I do with our content, aside from you listening or watching to it right now, is I chop it up, put it on social media, and I get comments. And I received many comments that just kind of caused me to pause and say, I don't know how to respond to this. So I put it in front of Bob, and here we are. And many of the comments centered around, oh boy, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to speak truth to power. I am not going to do that. That's just going to get me in trouble. And while Bob and I recognize the risks and the challenges of doing that, that's what we're going to talk about today, is the responsibility that you have as leader, and the fact that being a leader is hard. Being a leader is scary. There is no easy button. So if you want to be a leader, it's not going to be simple. Some of the things that we talked about in the last episode, Bob's first point from Colin Powell was, you're going to piss people off. Like, if you're really going to be a leader, that's going to happen. So you have to be comfortable with that. And I think that lands directly on today's topic and how we want to discuss that. So that's the framing for today. Bob got a little bit fired up, which is good. So Bob, I'm going to open the floor up for you a little bit.
Well, I mean, I don't know if
you weren't flipping tables or anything, but
no.
Yeah, we got some juices flowing. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's fine. We pivoted Metacasters maybe 80 episodes or so ago, plus or minus a year or two ago, to leadership. And Josh and I were intentional about it. Now, leadership with an agile twist probably is some of it, or with agile mindset or modern day leadership, weaving in AI and things like that. But we felt like we were talking about agile for many years, and we wanted to shift. And it wasn't artificial. It wasn't necessarily what we wanted to talk about. It was, but it was also, what does the world need to hear? Is it a worthwhile? We don't much against popular opinion. We don't just talk to hear ourselves talk. So, we're trying to make a difference. So we made this leadership pivot. Well, then, and every episode has had that twist. So where I'm coming from is from the point of view of leadership. When I hear comments like that, I basically think, well, then you're not a leader and get out of the job, right? If you're not willing to lead. So those comments, and with all due respect, you can have all of those comments, but then you're not a leader, right? What it says, if I'm uncomfortable, I'll duck my head down, right? In a game of whack-a-mole, I am the mole under the covers so that my little cranium doesn't get hit. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Be safe. But that's not leadership. That's not what you're getting paid to do. That's not what your teams are looking for you to do. That's not what your peers are looking for you to do. And I think if you look in your heart of hearts, that's not what I would bet you're not comfortable with that. The other thing I heard when Josh was talking, there's this implication that, oh, Bob and Josh, it's easy for you guys. You've written books and you're whatever we are, right? It's easy for you. It's harder for me. I'm going to say bullshit to that, right? It's not any easier for me. I still have fear. I still have to pay bills. Josh still has to pay bills. It's a question of, how are we going to lead? What is our character? What are our principles? How are we going to show up? And it's fine and Jim Dandy for you to show up underneath the moleskin, but then but then get out of the leadership business. And you know what? You're not alone. There's a lot of leaders like that are taking the easy road or pressing the easy button. That's actually the reasons why we're in trouble organizationally in so many instances, because we lack good leadership. We've talked about that a lot here. So I guess what like suck it up, Buttercup, and either it like practice what we're talking about or get out. Now I know that was harsh, Josh. So I want you to soften the blow for me, please. But if you can, but what do you think?
I don't know that it needs softened. So I want to echo Bob's discussion on why we pivoted. So we were hyper successful as an agile podcast. In fact, Bob sent me a link a while ago where we were the #1 agile leadership podcast in the world or something like that, and we're an agile leadership podcast because we did agile for a decade plus, and then we flipped to leadership. And we flipped to leadership because what we realized was that companies weren't struggling because they weren't able to adopt agile. Agile was struggling. Companies were struggling because there was a lack of good leadership in the technical space. And Bob and I have passion and experience around delivering great leadership, specifically in the technical world, because that's where he and I have lived for most of our careers. And so that's why we made this shift, because we believe that if we can make a difference in technical leadership, that everybody's lives will be better in the tech space. Everybody coming into the space, everybody who's been in the space for 20 years, for 30 years, those that are trying to become leaders. If we can make a difference, if we can help grow leaders in the technical space, then we've achieved our mission. That's what we're here to do. And to Bob's point, this is hard stuff. This is scary stuff. You're never going to be comfortable. Being a leader is never comfortable. One of the visuals that I've talked about in the past is what it means to be a leader. You are lining up with your troops to go out to battle, and you look to your left and you look to your right, and there's no one. It is you. You look behind you, and there's your team ready to go. But they have pushed you out. You have pushed yourself out in front. There is no protection. There is no shielding. You are leading the charge, literally. And that can be a scary place. But for both Bob and I, there is no other place that we would rather be. We are, I think partially we are wired like that, but also we have battle scars from doing that. And that's one of the things that I think that we can lean into is Bob and I have many battle scars from the leadership journey that we've been on. And there's no way to really be that grizzled leader without getting quite a few scars. And that's going to come from just putting yourself out there.
But yes, I mean, the world is full of good leaders and bad leaders. They're leaders. They're all leaders. And then there's the good ones and the bad ones. Metacasters, what do you want us to talk about? The schmaltzy ones? We've worked with schmaltzy leaders. We could explain schmaltzy leadership behavior till we're blue in the face, right? We could tell you how to be a mediocre leader, how to be an asshole leader, how to be a bullshit leader. We've seen those folks. We've seen the damage they've done to ourselves and to others. Our assumption is if you've gotten into leadership, you'd like to be a good one. If you got into software development, I hope you said, I want to be a schmaltzy software developer or a schmaltzy architect. I hope that wasn't your thought. You were learning, but the hope was, I want to be relatively good. I have good intentions. And that's what we're talking about here. So when we talk about leadership, it's, you know what, forget the scary. Of course it's scary, but that comes with the target. I mean, people join the army. What do you think they're doing? They're pushing someone out in front. If they're in battle, they're drawing the short straw. Everyone runs back. All the leaders run back. All right. I mean, I hope we train. Are they afraid? Yes, they're afraid. I was in the army. I understand that. But then we have to be accountable to our role. We have to be accountable to our troops. We have to be accountable to our friends. We have to be accountable to ourselves so we can look ourselves in the mirror and be proud of ourselves. I know I sound ranty, but this is the job. This is our pivot. It's leadership. It's not behind ship. It's not hide ship. It's not run backward ship. It's called leadership, right? You get into the leadership business, now you're at a choice. Right? Are you going to do it well or are you going to do it schmaltzy? Okay? And it's fine to do either one. We're not talking about schmaltzy leadership. We're talking about, so good leaders need to speak truth to power. And if you're saying, oh, I like to hide, well, then get out of the business or go get a class or get a coach because you're not a good leader. Hiding is not good leadership. Putting your head down is not, saving yourself, being safe is not good leadership. I don't care what book it's in. And it's not always threatening. I've gotten promoted because I spoke truth to power. I've gotten accolades because I've spoken truth to power. Right? They looked at me like, no one's ever said that. Right? Well, it's about time someone did. Right? In 10 years, no one's told me that. Now, yeah, so it's downside to it, but there's also upside to it. Josh, I'm sure you've had upside to it as well. So I want to. We often apologize. It sounds like we're apologizing. Oh, it's hard. No. This is the game. You want to play the freaking game? You got to grab your courage and get in the game, and then learn. You won't be perfect, but this head down crap. Man, that's not the way it is. That's not right. All right, Josh, I got a little feisty.
No, everybody likes a feisty Bob. Number one, a couple of confirmations. Yes, I have received or achieved promotions because I had a willingness to say things that needed to be said. And why is that? That's because the great leader that I worked with knew what great leadership looked like.
Yep.
And they recognized this guy's going to say the thing that needs to be said, even if it needs said to me. That's somebody I want in my leadership group. So if you want to be a great leaders will recognize when you're doing the hard thing, when you're actually leading, when you're doing the thing that needs to be done and no one else is willing to do it. So I don't know how you become the leader that you want to without doing the job, and it will be recognized. That doesn't mean it's not scary. That doesn't mean your heart's going to be racing when you have to say a difficult thing or do a difficult thing or leave a job. You know, that's something I've done recently is I just had to walk away from something. I didn't want to do it, but it was the thing that I needed to do because principles weren't aligned. And that's just the decision that I knew that I had to make to be able to look myself in the mirror and be the leader for myself and my team. And that's part of the journey. I was just watching a TV show last night, Mr. Robot. If anybody has ever watched that, there's a female character who ends up suing one of the largest companies in the world for lots of money. All of these reasons. It's a long backstory. But a couple of months later, they come back and offer her a job, and she's dumbfounded. Why in the world would you want to hire me? I'm suing you for hundreds of millions of dollars. And they said, that's exactly why we want to hire you. We want people that are willing to do the hard thing, that are willing to go up against the biggest of the big. That's the kind of leaders we want within our company. So that was another one of those things where, yep, that's what happens when you do what you need to do. Now, that was a big, difficult decision for her because of the morals of everything that went along with it. But that is the reality.
You know, the other thing, Josh, real quick, I think folks are being selfish when they take that attitude. So when I do the hard stuff, I'm not doing it for Bob Galen. I'm doing it for my team. I'm doing it for my organization. I'm doing it for the company. I'm not pulling. I mean, I'm doing it. If I was just doing it for me, yeah, I might put my head down. Like when I've terminated people, I wasn't terminating when I've terminated, put people on PIPs. When I've hired, I'm thinking about the company. I'm thinking about doing the right thing. If I thought about how much pain or work I'm going to have to go through, there's so many things I wouldn't do. Yes, I'd hold my. So I think there's a selfish flavor or a selfishness or a self first, and that's not leadership. Leaderships aren't about my butt. I'm going to cover my butt and screw everyone's elbow, right? Think about that military example. Imagine leaders in the military that were like that. Let me throw these guys out there to save my ass. That hopefully there might be a little bit of that, but hopefully that there's not a lot of that or zero. That's not leadership. So again, it's you may be scared, but why do you do it? Why would you speak truth to power? Because it's the greater good. It's the right thing to do. You're representing yourself and your team. They need to hear it, right? It's for those things, and that's your motivation. That's always been my motivation when I've had call about those hard conversations, those radically candid conversations. If I just looked at the effect on me, then I would freeze. But I have to look broader. I have to look at those I'm leading, not just at me.
Yeah, a very heavy driver for me is responsibility. And that weighs me down and drives me to do many of the things that I do that have been difficult. I am driven by this sense of responsibility and I think guilt if I don't do the thing. I am more scared by standing up in front of my team or having my team asking me about, hey, that thing that's slowing us down, that thing that we need you to go tackle. Did you do it? No. That is more terrifying than any discussion I could have with anybody. Standing up in front of my team and saying, I didn't do the hard thing for you guys. I bailed out. I took the easy way out. That is the driver for me, is the responsibility I have for my team. And early in my career, I was apologetic to leaders that I was working with or working for. And I was very frustrated with myself, and I decided to change my tone because I was apologetic about being a team first person. I would say, hey, I'm a team first leader, sometimes to a fault, because I didn't want them thinking that I would choose the team over the business or the whatever. And I started to look at myself in those conversations like, wait a minute, that's not who I want to be. So I stopped saying that and I stopped doing that. And I felt like I blossomed as a leader in that moment. I can remember in my career when I made that decision. And I, at that point, built some of the best teams that built the best products that I've ever been associated with. And since then, it's only grown in the capability that our teams have had because I stopped trying to play both sides of the fence. I would get scared when a situation would come up and I would have to make a choice of like, okay, what do I do? Do I say what the leader wants or do I do what I need to do for the team? And I would go back and forth. I stopped going back and forth. And once I drew that line in the sand, there was a acceleration in both my happiness and how content I was with the journey that I was on and the performance of my teams.
So I think I want to wrap maybe this episode. So one, I want to thank folks for those comments because it added some clarity to some of our recent metacasts. Two, I want to step in and just reaffirm this is intentional on our part, and we're not going to back down. This is about leadership, and we're not going to soft serve our leadership ideas to you to the point where it's comfortable. Leadership is uncomfortable. Get comfortable with the discomfort. Right. And step into it. It's called leadership for you and for everyone you're leading around you. Three, if you do want to hide, or I'm going to call it hide, or if you do want to, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid. Then I'm going to invite you to get out of leadership because you are not doing yourself or your team or your organization any good. You are not a leader. I know that sounds harsh, but you are not a leader. And your teams know that you're not a leader. And the organization knows you're not a leader. You may have to catch up to them. And go find something that makes you happy, where you don't have to take a risk, where you don't have to take a stand, where you don't have to act on your principles. There's stuff like that. They're everywhere, right? And there's nothing wrong. You're not bad. Leadership is not for the faint of heart. Good leadership, right? Good leadership. And that's what we aspire to here. Josh, any final words?
No, Bob, you nailed it.
I'm so glad they said this. And Metacasters, we're raising the bar. Maybe, Josh, we use this final point. Maybe,
I like that.
we dance too much sometimes. we're pretty firm, but sometimes, we dance around it. Maybe we need to reflect and stop dancing and really set the bar even a little bit higher. The world needs that right now. The world needs leaders, right? Not just in Agile. I mean, look at our leadership worldwide. The world needs great leaders. So let's maybe raise our own bar.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, are there harder conversations that we can have? Are there things that we're avoiding? Are there things where where we've been delivering a glancing blow?
Yeah.
Versus we need to lean in.
So, Metacasters, food for thought. But at the end of the day, lead. From beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And beautiful downtown Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina.
I'm Bob Galen.
And I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake.
And bake.
Take care, y'all.